Hey y'all, APG Jamie here. Ta-da! And today we're going to be doing some staining, also known as dyeing of paper. Now, to start with, we're going to be using white coffee filters. I have a big old sheet of rice paper. I have graph paper. Tracing paper. Book paper. Copy paper. Oh, cardstock. Deli paper. And I also have a couple of pieces of photo paper because I have it, and why not? So all paper will take stains and dyes differently. We're mostly going to be focusing on coffee and tea. Now I use instant coffee, and your brand doesn't matter, and whether it's caffeine or not doesn't matter either. For that matter, the coffee that they leave for you at hotels, if you don't drink it, you can take it, okay, because you paid for it. And then go home and brew it and save it for when you're ready to dye or otherwise stain paper. I keep mine in a spritz bottle in the refrigerator because I have a refrigerator out here in my studio. You can also put it in a tub deep enough to hold the liquid and your paper if you want to do a dipping method, which is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. Today we're going to try some tea. I have a black pomegranate. I'm not sure what color they're going to do. I have a blueberry, and I have this one called Tila Linden. I don't know what it is. I thought it was interesting name, pretty box. I bought it, thought I'd try it, don't like it. Now, also, I've got a mixing cup because I'm going to brew the tea hot, whereas my coffee is cold. And it's room temperature, aka cold. In my pans, these are just studio pans, but because it's just coffee and tea, it's not going to be a food hazard, but just so you know, it may be best to limit your pans and that kind of thing to studio pans. I have put a piece of folded wax paper in this one. That's just going to hold the liquid just a little bit in the bottom so it'll pool. Likewise on this one. And then over here I have a couple of cookie racks. Set that down in my sink, and then I've got this big old pan, and it has a piece of parchment in it. Again, that's to mostly just hold the liquid in there while it sits. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz some of it with the coffee. Some of it's going to be more or less dipped, the teas, and I will let them set. I don't know, let's say 10, 15, 20 minutes. Probably the tea a little longer because I know it doesn't go quite as dark as coffee can. And we'll let that set, and then I will take them in the house and shuffle pans around in the oven. Now, this time of year when it's coldish, if it's coldish at your place when you're watching this anyway, winter time-ish is a pretty good time to do the tea and coffee dyeing of your papers. You can also do fabrics. The reason it's good is because if you're doing it oven drying it, you've got the oven. If you're doing it in the summertime, when you pull your sheets out, you can just go lay them out in the sun, unless it's a windy day and you don't necessarily want to be chasing papers. Now, I've also got some extra things to lay between the pieces of paper. I've got a fabric doily. It is probably, I'm pretty sure, not cotton. This is an old piece of a lacy curtain that I'm pretty sure is cotton. Not positive. And then these came from a 99-cent store. And I'm sure they're not cotton, so they will do differently. But we're going to layer them in the papers, and hopefully it will leave marks on there. I've also got heart-shaped paper doilies, which will also do the same thing. And the reason I have the paper doilies is because someone can't find their round doilies. I have them somewhere. The studio gremlins took them. So what I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to put water in the measuring cup. I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to get these all damp-ish. So just pretend like you can hear fancy music, like a musical interlude. It's musical interlude for you, for me, just we. Musical interlude. And the other sound you hear in the background, that's my heater out here in the studio because it's a nice chilly day today. So let me pop this in the microwave. Okay, so I have the hot water. And we are going to start with the black pomegranate. Now, when you're dyeing paper with tea or coffee, it is best to make it a strong brew. I'm just going to use one tea bag to start with, and we'll see what color it comes out to be. We're going to let it sit for a while. Now, when you weren't looking, because, you know, I already got these are damp. Ooh, they're wet. Too wet. So let's squeeze some of that out. The reason I've dampened them is because I don't want them absorbing all the dye. I want them to sort of repel it. And what I should tell you a while ago, which is what I probably just said, was you want to brew your dye or stain pretty thick. You want to make it pretty strong. Okay? Now that, I think I'm going to go fetch another tea bag and put another tea bag in there. Well, I came back and I couldn't find any more pomegranate. So I grabbed a hibiscus while I was in there. Now these are HEB brands. Brand doesn't matter. And I just went on yammering and putting the tea and layering the different papers into this here tea bath. Okay? And they've been setting probably 10 minutes already. But with tea, it doesn't stain as dark as coffee does because the tannin is different. So I'm actually going to let that set a lot longer than I would coffee because coffee can get very dark. When you're brewing your tea for tea dyeing, you want to make it really strong. Same with coffee. You want to make it really strong. So now I've come back and found out that I didn't record all that. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with the blueberry, being how I can't go back and redo that one. Okay? So we're going to start over. Well, sort of over. We'll carry on. I'm going to put a little bit of the tea in there. Now this one may even be hotter. I don't know. And I started with a piece of rice paper. We're going to put that in there. It's very absorbent. Now this brewed up really red, which I would have thought that the hibiscus and the, pomegranate, I would have thought that would have as well, but it didn't. So, we'll do a lot of ums. Let's slide in a piece of graph. So make it strong. throw in a doily. Put a doily on it. What I said earlier, and I hope I can remember everything I said because it was good. I tell you what, I really said some good stuff while y'all weren't here recording, watching the recording. That it's the tannin in the tea that makes the color appear. Tannin is in leaves, stems, flowers, tree bark, nature. It's what colors and makes the dye. In this one, I put a lot of tea bags because this tea is really old because it's from 2011. I didn't care much for the blueberry. And this is sort of a pouring, steeping method. I don't know. Well, it's always a surprise how the paper is going to take the dye, the stains, because it's really a stain. You're staining the paper. We always refer to it as dye, but it is a stain. And they're essentially the same thing. You know, when you get that ketchup stain on your shirt, it doesn't come out. It's because you dyed your shirt. You can dye fabric. Did I say that already? I don't know, because like I said, the recording didn't get turned on. I don't know who didn't do that. So, if you want to check out eco dyeing, I suggest you do because it's I've not done it, but it looks like a lot of fun. It's where you take different leaves, copy paper, different leaves and flowers, and you layer them up in your paper. And then bundle it all up and tie it all nice and tight. And you simmer it in hot water. I don't know how many hours. Long time. This is cardstock. And I think it's time for a doily. Where's those fabric doilies? Oh, here they are. Long time. And then you pull it out and you rinse it off. You let it dry a little bit or something. And I've not done it. You can search here on the YouTubes and find it. I'm telling y'all, what I said earlier was brilliant. Let's use some coffee filter. Let's put 2 in there. Deli paper. And my deli paper is really big. It's like a 14 by 14 or something like that. I've not dyed it, so I don't know how it's going to do, but it takes sprays really well, so it should be good. And last but not least, look what I found in the drawer when I was getting out a new towel. I found this thing. It's a little netting thing. Let's just throw that in here for fun, just for grins. It was not damp, it was dry, so we're just going to pour the rest of that in there. And we're going to put the HP photo paper. I have lots of this because I don't print photos anymore. As you can see, the tea is not too hot to handle. It's very nice. Hang on one second, I'm going to get the other paper that I did a while ago. This is a piece of cardstock. When I finished pouring out the rest of that stuff that I laid the tea bags on, because you can also just paint with these and get really interesting stuff. Now this one has a lot of tea bags in it. Hey, you can save your tea bags, let them dry, lay them out, let them dry. Ooh, splashing everywhere. And once they get dry, you can, straighten up, act right. You can open them up, empty out the tea, and use the tea bags for art too. Let me go set this aside. Okay, it all looks good. I'm just going to fold that over to get it back inside there. And I'm going to set this down in the sink too with the other one. Now, depending on the type of tannin that is in the tea and whatever else will determine the amount of color you get from that particular thing, leaves or whatever. And rinse that out. I don't need to stain my glass. Banging around. Sorry. I'm starting to feel a little nervous because I forgot to push record. And I said such perfect, wonderful things. Because I explained to y'all about tea. All tea is the same tea. It all comes from the same kind of plant. With the exception of some of the add-on for the herbal tea. Those are a little different. You'd have to read your box on each one to find out about that stuff. And hang on. I had watched a documentary a while back. We're going to go with some coffee now. Let's pour this in the bottom. This is the same stuff. That's just in a spritz bottle. Ooh, Lord, that's nasty. Don't pour nastiness in there. It looks like a piece of label. Just smearing it around. And that is why coffee gets so much darker than tea. Tea comes from, all tea comes from the same kind of tea plant, okay? It all depends on what age, how old the leaves are when they pick them. I might ought to put some water in there because that is really dark. Let me get a spray bottle of waters. Okay. It depends on when they pick the leaves, the maturity of the leaves, and how they process those leaves. Some leaves are just dried, some are roasted, some are, I don't know, seems like some of them were dipped in water and stuff. And then, of course, there's seasonings that can be added as well. There we go. To the mixture to change flavors and that kind of thing, which is what we tend to see when we have blueberry, because you know it's not a blueberry leaf. Didn't make that. A regular tea tree did that. Just going to lay on these different paper doilies. And spritz a little coffee. And now we've got just a piece of copy paper. I'm just going to spritz some of that on. Let's mix a little water in there. I have a feeling these are going to come out really dark, so I don't want to leave these setting too long. Let's put our curtain on there. Another piece of copy paper, because we have it right here. We're just going to finish up using that. All this paper we got here. I never did use this one, but each tea is going to be just a little bit different because of the tannins in the tea on the process, depending on the process. Ooh, I'm getting that everywhere, y'all. Let's put some more of the heart doilies. These should take the coffee stain beautifully as well. Go for some book pages. Now these are older book pages to begin with. And as you can see, they are not white. Oh, also, what I might have talked about when we didn't record, Studio Gremlins, this sprays everywhere, was the sound that paper makes. As you know, paper's got a sound to it, and it's kind of soft. Once it gets dry, especially if you dry it in the oven, and I may have said this before, and I apologize if I'm repeating, because I don't remember what I said, because I got discombobulated. And that just happens. It just is the nature of the beast, y'all. Paper's a beast. Let's put this dolly on there. Now I forgot what I was saying there. Oh, Lord bless me. Bless my heart, y'all. Nature of the beast. Oh, once it dries, it will sound different. And if you oven dry it, that even brings out the different sound. Now, winter time is a good time to do this because you can dry it in your oven. Now, you want to dry it on low. And you want to stay right there with it. You don't want to walk away. I mean, you don't have to stand there and look at it and go, oh, please don't catch on fire. Because I learned the other day in one of the other chat rooms that it really needs to be like 400 and something degrees for the paper to catch on fire. So we're not going to go near that hot. We're going to go probably around 275, and that tends to be pretty much fast enough for the drying, for me anyway, in the oven. If it's summertime, you can dry these outdoors. You can also place them on a rack outdoors. And speaking of racks, we're going to get to these cookie racks in a minute, because my hope is they will leave some kind of a marks on the papers. As you can see, hopefully you can see, this is not a runny bath like these are. This tea is still warm, I can feel it. These are runny baths, and that's because we are spraying it. Now, any coffee left in this pan, I can put back in the bottle. I probably won't, but I can, because there's, you know, it's only for this purpose. You want to make sure you brew your coffee or tea really strong. Dry that up so that it will stain really well. Now, oh, here's some more paper doilies. Just put them in there. Put them in there. They don't necessarily have to be sopping wet either. Ooh, those was two stuck together. Okay. I'm going to press this down on there. And I don't want to carry these slopping in the house for the oven, because that's where the oven is. I do all my spritzing and stuff out here. But I'm going to take this one, and I'm just going to dump it straight upside down in the sink. And I'm going to set that down in there. I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can maybe see it. Especially the next one. Now remember, we had the wax paper in there, so see, that just came out really nice. Let's just give that a little rinse. I don't have to, because it's a studio pan. I'm going to set you right there. Don't fall over. Let's take the wax paper off. Peel that paper back. Be careful now. Paper is very delicate and stretchy when it's wet. That's kind of a gray-green kind of color. I was hoping we would get a reddy color. Now, I could hang on to this because it will probably take some of that dye as well. But I don't want to put the wax paper in the oven because I don't want to. That's why. So I'm going to let that drain for a minute. Whoops. Slide that back up there. Careful now. Sorry. Gonna let that drain out just a little bit more. Let me dry that because I don't want to drip on my floor going into the house. Let's set this aside. Now we're going to take this one and we're going to do the same thing. Hopefully you can see it. And this one's going to be a little harder because the pan's just a little bit different of a size. Okay, get ready. Maybe this one will dye kind of reddish. You can use all kinds of things for dye, not just tea and coffee. You can also use, that's stuck in the pan. You can also use Kool-Aid. Any color Kool-Aid you want. And flavor doesn't matter either. Just saying. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these continue to sit, and I'm going to oven dry the coffee ones first because that gets really dark really fast. My sink is already a mess, but I still want to rinse it out.
So let's just go ahead and move into the kitchen. Now here I've already got the oven going. I've already had a pan in there, and I'm using tongs and a spatula to help separate the papers. Now, like I said, the oven's not super hot. At first I had it on 275, but I had to hurry it up some more, so I moved it up to 300. Now I'm staying there and I'm watching it, and I'm moving pans in and out. Use caution. Use your pot holders, your little, keep your hands safe, spatulas, tongs, that kind of thing. And I'm flipping the paper around and moving the wetter ones on the outside and the wetter edges to the outside, trying to de-stick some of them, because the coffee filters and a little bit of the doily, or the heart-shaped doily, stuck to some of the paper, mostly the deli wrap, because it has just a slight wax to it. Not much, just a little. And this is pretty much what I do for all my pans of paper. The graphed paper, the lines that were on the graph paper that were printed on there, they disappeared from all the dyeing process, from the coffee and from the tea process. I was surprised by that. Now on the coffee pages with the graphed paper, they had little splooches of blue from the lines. That's what I'm saying. And didn't I use some green accounting notebook paper? That wasn't green anymore, and it lost its lines too. Just saying. So we're going in and out, and this is the sped up part because this is a pretty long video. All in all, I probably spent about 45 minutes dyeing the paper, and I don't know how long shuffling it through the oven drying process. So yeah, and I got the video down to right at 35 minutes. We're going to call it 35 because it's just under that. And I just keep doing it. Shuffle them around. The ones that are dry enough, meaning they are probably 70 to 80% dry, I'm setting them over there where you can't see. And the other ones, I'm just shuffling around. Now back there on that part of my oven, there's hot air comes from the oven there. And so that will help dry those a little bit more. And these can be steamy. Be careful of steam, y'all. Be careful of hot. Use tongs, a spatula, something else. Put some gloves on, heat resistant gloves, and just shuffle them papers around till they're dry. Now if you want to iron them later on, I would slightly mist them with water first. Okay? So here we go. This is the hibiscus and the pomegranate. And this is what those papers sound like. Okay. And this is what the blueberry papers sound like. Because it does change the sound when you dye your papers and all that. The type of paper you use also has an effect. Now, the coffee filters that were on top of the deli wrap stuck to the deli wrap and tore. I'm guessing because of the slight wax in the deli wrap paper did that. Okay, there we're showing the blueberry one on screen. And then this is what the coffee ones sound like. They all sound a bit crunchy. The coffee one has retained quite a bit of the coffee aroma. The other ones have a very, very ever so slight fruity fragrance to them. So, did I say the type of paper you use affects the way it will dye? That you can use Kool-Aid, and that those papers typically do retain the fragrance of the Kool-Aid color that you use. I have linked to a tea video, history about tea, kind of, sort of. It's not the one I saw on television, but it's similar enough that it will get the point. If you're interested, don't feel like you have to, just because I talked about it. I thought I'd share it. Let's see what else. The type of paper, the length of time you do it, tea will not stain or dye as dark as coffee does. And that's just the aware of it. And I'm going to show you here in a second, any second now, today, tomorrow, whatever, those fabric-like doilies and pieces of lace that I used to enhance some of the look. None of them are real cotton, or they would have stained very badly, and none of them did. So none of them is real cotton. Cotton absorbs and will retain the dyeing process more. And if you are dyeing and coloring fabric, staining fabric, you're going to want to use a little bit of vinegar to help retain the color into the fabric. So here we are, a few photo montage close-ups. There is a list of ingredients in the description box below, and this video has been brought to you by Art Joy of Sharing. Hashtag Magnificent Melange. I appreciate each and every one of you, your valuable time, your kind comments, your shares, your likes, and be sure to look for the hashtag Magnificent Melange for more videos. Thanks for watching, and happy arting, y'all.